Hey all, welcome back to another episode. Today I have my girl Brittany with me. She is going to hop on here in just a minute, and she is absolutely all about holistic, finding root causes to things. She's become a bit of a homesteader herself. She is also a ex-gymnast, so she has definitely athletic experience, and she is a physical therapist as well. So she has all kinds of irons in the fire and I'm sure all kinds of helpful information for us. I am definitely one of those people and one of those coaches that wants to provide you guys the most wide variety of people and experts and stories and opinions that will help everybody a little bit in different ways. I definitely want to be sure that we bring you everything that we can in order to help you get a little bit closer to your goals every single day. I myself am a business owner, farmer, mom of two, living in small town Iowa. I have a lot of huge goals as well. I've struggled with the stress, the nutrition, the food, the nutritional habits, the over exercising, the being overweight, the being too lean, all of the things. And I've learned a ton along the way, but there's always more to learn. So cannot wait to have Brittany on here and to walk you through some of the things that she specializes in to hopefully help you a little bit more as well. All right, you guys, this is Brittany. I'm so excited to have her here today. But I'll let her go ahead and start things off. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, your background, all of that kind of stuff.
So I'm Brittany. I am from Illinois. My background is kind of a lot. So I was a Division I gymnast. I was a gymnast for 16 years and went through a lot with gymnastics. I've had 5 knee surgeries, and there's just a lot that comes with being that high level of an athlete and such a subjective sport. So that's a big piece of who I am and where I came from. My degree is in physical therapy. So I'm actually a doctor of physical therapy. I went to physical therapy school after going through all of my knee surgeries and finding some really inspirational physical therapists in my life that kind of led me down that path. I'm also super into holistic wellness, health and wellness, have been studying and learning all kinds of things from functional medicine doctors and holistic doctors over the last 5, 6 years. Um, and have been dealing with my own health journey, going through Hashimoto's. I have a thyroid condition, was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition about 3 years ago now. After I got the vid, I found out I also had a thyroid condition. So it kind of lit everything up. So I've been dealing with that. And that led me on a homesteading journey where I started, I got my own chickens, and that just went down a whole path of holistic raising my own food, going the supplement route, and a whole new journey for me. So that's kind of like my background and where I'm at now. And I am really focused on the wellness piece, the nutrition piece, and the exercise based physical therapy piece.
Absolutely love that. Okay, I guess my first question. Physical therapy, is that because you were a gymnast and you went through so many injuries and then found those physical therapists that help you so much? Is that what kind of inspired that?
That is 100% what inspired that.
Okay.
So I tore my ACL, my first ACL, when I was a junior in high school, and worked with a really well known surgeon in the gymnastics community. And then obviously had a lot of physical therapy after that injury. That first set of physical therapists that I worked with, did not get me where I needed to be. Um, in order to be pushing myself at the level I needed to be at to be able to go and do Division I athletics. And I ended up tearing my other ACL coming back from that rehab program because I really wasn't ready to be tumbling and starting to do a lot of the things that I needed to do to send tapes out. Well, at the time you sent tapes out to different colleges. So I then, after I tore my second ACL, I found a really amazing team, found the most incredible, inspirational physical therapist. My mom helped me with this at the time. And he is who inspired my journey to go down the physical therapy route. And I went to physical therapy school with the goal of working with artistic athletes. That was my primary focus when I got there. And that is what I did when I got out.
Absolutely awesome. So do you work with a regular day-to-day client as well, or mostly just athletes?
So when I first graduated, I started with at a regular outpatient physical therapy. location where I treated everybody. Anyone, work comp, younger kids to older adults. And I did that for a couple of years before I opened my own practice where I treated just artistic athletes within gymnastics facilities. So I would actually go to the gymnastics facility, treat the girls on site so that they didn't have to leave practice to go get physical therapy, because that was one of the problems. That is one of the problems across the board in that sport. These girls train 20, 25 hours a week. They don't have a lot of extra time to be driving back and forth to miss practice, and the coaches don't like when they miss practice. So I said, I'll fix that problem and I'll just come to them and I'll start treating in-house. And I did that for 4 years. And unfortunately, the gym I was working out of closed. So then my practice kind of closed because I also had 2 children and my whole life shifted. Now I'm getting back into that and I'm doing it more from the virtual space. So I'm going to be doing it more online based exercise programming. And I'm going to be focusing on the cheerleaders, the gymnasts, the figure skaters, the dancers, all of those artistic sports.
So interesting. Okay, so do you find yourself working with a lot of like the high school age, collegiate age type people then with that athletic space that you're in?
Yes, I mean, most of my clients are between the ages of, I mean, I've treated as young as like 7 years old, but usually it's that teen age range between like 10 and 18 is kind of usually where I'm at. I haven't gotten to do a lot of the collegiate athletes yet because they usually have their own trainers on site wherever they are. So that's what their college wants them to use. But it's usually that teen age, and there are just certain injuries that come in gymnastics with the development of the body, with the amount of pounding that they go through. And it just is kind of like this cyclical thing. There's Sever's heel, which is something that's really common in the younger age range. There's a lot of hypermobility. So a lot of girls are hypermobile and they need to be stabilized. There's some girls that just aren't flexible enough to be able to do what they need to do for the sport. There's some girls that are over flexible. It kind of goes back and forth, but I'm definitely in that teen age range, which is such a tricky time for girls in
Mhm.
general. There's a lot of body image issues that come at that time. There's a lot of, um, you know, boys and different involvement that comes into their sport, and they're very focused in their sport at that age. Gymnasts tend to peak around the age of 16. So that's like their peak time. So there's a lot that comes with the physical therapy aspect, also the mental health aspect, the body image aspect, all of those things. And I feel like I end up doing all of that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. As a nutrition coach, I feel the same way. Not necessarily with teenagers most of the time. However, I am starting a new youth or young adult athlete performance program, which is going to be all about everything outside of the gym, outside of the court, like all the things we can do to optimize their performance outside of actual practice. So I feel like that's what you do as well, which is so cool, but in your own specific way. Okay, so on that, you do most of that virtually. In the show notes, I'll link how they can reach out to you because I have a number of people that do have those high school athletes. And if they need some sort of a trainer like you, that would be really fantastic. So I'd love to have them be able to contact you for that. So we'll
Awesome.
definitely do that. Okay, so let's see. That's kind of what you're into now. What kind of got you into the holistic type of stuff? Was there something that triggered that began you wanting to kind of like find root causes and solutions instead of medications, or what started that?
Definitely. So, um, from basically for as long as I can remember, but really from like the age of 10 or 12, I can remember always having really bad digestive issues. I've had gut issues my whole life. And um, after my kids were born, they just got worse and worse and worse. And I remember sitting on the bathroom floor one day after I was having this terrible digestive upset and bloating and all of these issues, and just finally saying, like, enough is enough. Like, I've got to figure this out. I had already been to, gastro doctors and different Western medicine doctors that have all been saying to me, you have IBS. That was always the blanket statement. You have IBS. I had colonoscopies at the age of 20. Like, you have IBS. You're just going to have to deal with it. You need to watch the foods that you eat. And even, as far as like, here's a pill that you can take for the rest of your life to try to treat your IBS. And that was never an option for me. I've always been more holistic minded. So like taking a pill for the rest of my life was like never going to happen. I was never going to do that. And I hadn't found a way to settle my digestive upset. It was never consistent. I had never had like, oh, this one food or this one thing or this one trigger that would really upset me. So I started experimenting myself with cutting out different types of foods. I cut out sugar for a while. I cut out gluten for a while. I cut out dairy for a while. I tried all of these different techniques myself, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. So I started researching like crazy and figuring out more of a holistic path to try to fix digestive issues. I had seen 7 different holistic practitioners before I found the one that I'm currently working with. And I think each one of them was a piece to the puzzle and kind of helped figure out my digestive issues. And I am currently like the best I've ever been as far as my digestive issues are concerned. I think that I did a big elimination diet at one point, and I think that was good and bad. I think it lit up some of my thyroid things, and that's how I discovered that I had those. But I think working with going through that and figuring out kind of resetting my body is what got me to a point to be able to tackle some of those digestive issues and some of that gut discomfort and get my body more balanced. The holistic space is what saved me. I will say it hands down. The holistic
Absolutely.
space is what saved me. It was not Western medicine. I felt very jaded by the Western medicine system. I feel like no one ever listened to me. No one understood what I was going through. I was a 20-year-old that was complaining of these horrible digestive issues. And I feel like they always chalked it up to you're 20, you don't know anything. You're going out and drinking and partying and doing these things in college. And that's probably why. And I just never got anywhere. So while some of the holistic things that I did probably weren't the right fit for me, and I had to find the right fit for me, which can be really challenging. I think in the Western medicine space or the holistic space, finding the right fit for you can be hard. Finding the right person and getting these things taken care of has totally changed my life. And I haven't looked back since. I've changed everything for my family, for my kids, for my husband. And it's made a world of difference for all of us.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like being an advocate, right, for yourself. I mean, there's definitely a place for Western medicine, for sure. But
There
for,
is.
yeah, for the majority of things though, like, for these constant aches, these like reoccurring flares that nobody can answer anything about, like I went more of like that holistic type path as well to help fix my gut. So we kind of have gone through the same thing there. So I guess what was like the 2 or 3 biggest changes that you made that you felt made the biggest impact on your digestive health since you struggled with that for so long?
The number one biggest thing that I have done is I have changed my diet completely to being whole foods based,
Hmm.
basically 90% of the time.
Yep.
I have my I would never tell anyone to be perfect in that. I think you should go out and have your slice of pizza or go out with your family and enjoy your food and not always be worried about what your food is cooked in and all of that. I think that has a whole added stress piece that's not good for your gut either.
Hmm.
But switching to holistic based or whole foods and focusing on the quality of the food that I'm eating has changed my life. My husband is an elite triathlete. It has changed his athletic performance completely. We noticed that at the last race he did.
Hmm.
It is hands down the number one thing I tell everyone to start doing.
Absolutely.
Stop stop shopping in the middle of the grocery store and shop the perimeters. If you
Hmm.
learn to eat off of the perimeters of a grocery store, you will feel better, hands
Hmm.
down. I stopped cooking in oil, any kind of oil. I never cook in oils anymore, not olive oil, not avocado oil, not even the good oils. I cook in butter. I always cook in butter or some kind of a fat base. Coconut oil is the only oil I'll ever use. That's made a huge difference in my gut. And I'm a label reader now. I know,
Hmm.
I to really look at labels and like really analyze them. And I'm a label reader. I look for the less ingredients, the better. Whole foods ingredients always being first. Um, and then if I had to name some other things that I've done is I've really worked on my like digestive acids, which is really important. I was not digesting things well, and I was on a digestive enzyme for a really long time to help me digest my food, which I think was very helpful. Now I'm able to control it myself by I take a bitter supplement, and I also always drink apple cider vinegar in the morning, which helps my digestive acids, which helps me be able to process the fats and the proteins and get all of that into my system. And then I am a big believer in drinking good water. So I'm really big on filtering your water, and then adding minerals back in, making sure you get all of your minerals. That helps a lot from the cellular perspective. Making sure your cells are hydrated changes your whole body.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like it's not the sodium that's the problem. It's the processed food that we're having that causes the problem.
And I am gluten free. I chose to be gluten free, and it's not, that's because of my thyroid things. And that was recommended to me by many different holistic doctors. So I've been gluten free for 3 years. I think that has made a big difference for me personally, but
Mhm.
I do not believe that problem. Some people come to me and they're like, well, I should be gluten free. And I'm like, I don't think it's about the gluten. I think it's the pesticides and the way we process the gluten in this country. Um, I have eaten gluten in Europe and had no issues at
Mhm.
all. It's a different, it's not about the gluten, it's about how it's processed here. So sometimes clients come to me and they're like, I should cut out gluten because that's changed your gut. And I'm like, I don't think gluten's the problem. So don't cut out gluten, just cut out gluten. I am a big believer in adding in more things and not taking things away. The minute I started eating a more diverse diet from the whole foods perspective, things started to get better. My sensitivity started to go away. I could tolerate more foods. You know, everything kind of changed. My skin changed, my hair changed, everything got better. So don't just cut out gluten to cut out gluten. I tell people that all the time.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. And like, and I think that's a really big takeaway is just because something works really well for you or for me doesn't mean that that's the answer for somebody else, even if our symptoms are the same. So, I guess what kind of testing did your holistic doctor do, if you're willing to share that, that kind of led them to give you some of these suggestions for changes?
So I worked with I worked with a chiropractor who specialized in celiac. That was his specialization. This was before I was completely gluten free, before I really knew exactly what was going on. And he did an entire food sensitivity testing. I am not a huge proponent of food sensitivity testing because I don't think it's very accurate. It will light up that you eat a lot, and it will also light up things that you don't eat at all. And then some of it will be accurate for sensitivities. Now, his particular take was anything that lit up on the sensitivity testing should be cut out. And so I cut out everything for 11 weeks and I lost 15 pounds. It was not the best plan in my opinion. However, I do think it reset my system.
Oh, so
So
this
I
was the
think
elimination diet that you did? Got
yes,
it. Okay.
there was something to be said for the total reset of kind of cutting all this stuff out and then starting over. However, I had horrible digestive issues. I don't think that's true for everybody. They were horrible. They were debilitating. They were running my life.
Hmm.
Uh, the functional medicine practitioner that I work with now, we have been focused a lot more on my blood panels and my hormone levels. So we have done full, very extensive blood panels, and I did Dutch testing to kind of see how my hormones were regulated because the thyroid can really throw off your hormones and vice versa. If your hormones are really thrown off, your thyroid can get really thrown off. So I do think the Dutch testing was really helpful to kind of see where I'm at. I'm 39, so I'm at that kind of perimenopausal stage, kind of like my hormones are shifting and changing. The other piece to that is I was on hormonal birth control my entire life from the age of 16 until I had kids. And then I went back on it after my kids, and I've only been off of it now for maybe 3.5 years,
Hmm.
which now the holistic space can destroy your gut and destroy your liver and do all of these things that nobody tells you about. So the Dutch testing was really important because I had never seen how my hormones function off of birth control almost my entire life. I had no idea what my actual cycle was like or how my body kind of processed my hormones. So the Dutch testing I think is really beneficial, especially for women going through hormone dysfunction, and then making sure that you get a blood panel that is full for your thyroid.
Yes.
Everything that you need to look at for your thyroid. And I think for some people, they don't realize how many different things that includes. A full thyroid panel is really extensive. And it breaks down all your mineral contents and all these other things in your body too, which has been really important. And I redo that every year.
Every year. Yeah, I did a Dutch test this summer and it absolutely it gives you the exact guiding points to know exactly where you're at and how to fix those ailments. Like it was absolutely outstanding. And I had never heard of it before. My girl Mackenzie was, I just did a podcast recording with her earlier. And she's the one who ordered it for me. And she read it for me because thank God there's so many numbers. I had no clue.
Yeah.
It's amazing what it can result. And so I'm so glad to hear that you did that. Like right on par with exactly what I expected you to say. And I just think it's so interesting because we have so many things in common in that aspect. I struggled terribly with awful gut issues for so long, like laying on the bathroom floor, just like begging for it to go away. And I
Right.
couldn't make it do anything.
Right.
So I relate to your pain.
I also think, like as far as those testing things, I also tell people all the time, they are a picture in time. Like they are a picture of exactly what your blood was like right then, right there when you got it taken, and right then when you did the Dutch test. That's a picture in time. And
Mhm.
those things will fluctuate and they will change. And so that's why I think it's really important to get these tests redone if your symptoms don't resolve, or if you're struggling with a new symptom or something that has been plaguing you for a really long time and you just can't get rid of, and you try all the things and you do all the tests and you're not getting the answers that you need. Things change in those panels all the time, and your picture, like your stress level that morning can affect your blood work. Your
Mhm.
stress level that night when you do, you pee on the stick for the Dutch test can change the following month if you're not as if your stress level's different. So it's
Yep.
a picture and not to over analyze it and take it as, 100% fact all the time. This my estrogen level must be through the roof all the time. It's a picture in time, and to take it as a grain of salt and then work with it.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece. Like we work with it, we see what symptoms start to reduce, what ones are still occurring, redo it, see where you can keep tweaking. It's such an awesome opportunity. I just love the whole idea of the Dutch test. Like the blood panel is great, especially the super extensive one with what you were going through. But I just love the Dutch test because it takes a whole day at least to measure the
Mhm.
different amounts of stress and stuff throughout that whole day. So that's amazing. I think something I
Sorry, there was one other one that I did that I totally forgot about,
oh
but I
yeah.
want to talk to you. I did something called GI mapping.
Yes.
Uh, so this one's interesting because you have to like poop in a cup.
I've heard of this. Yes,
Yeah.
that was my next test up if I didn't get things resolved. So yeah.
Yeah. So GI mapping is interesting because it's another one. It's a picture in time, right? But the coolest thing that it taught me was what I don't absorb,
Hmm.
what's coming through all the way through my system. And for me at that time, this was a couple years ago, it was protein. I was not
Really?
absorbing protein. Even if I took it in, it was coming out. And part of that was because my digestive acids were so poor. And that's why I started taking a digestive enzyme specifically for proteins for a long time. A lot of people are on a digestive enzyme and they don't know what they're having trouble digesting.
Hmm.
And not all digestive enzymes are created equal. They
Yeah.
will help you digest different types of things. So GI mapping was huge for me too. And I think it did make a huge difference in my ability to, I was almost malnourished, but I was eating
Hmm.
because I wasn't absorbing the food that I was consuming. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it helped me figure out what I was struggling with absorbing. It was fat, it was high fat. So I had for a long time I could not consume steak to save my life. I know it's such a shame, right?
Hmm.
I could not consume steak. I would be sick right after I ate, almost immediate. And now I can eat steak
That's
because I
great.
fixed digestive acids. But the GI mapping is what told me that high fatty proteins I didn't absorb at all. So
Interesting.
that's interesting. And I do think that's an expensive test, but I do think it's worth doing.
Absolutely. And especially if it's one like that's why it was the next one if the Dutch test did not and the things that we changed did not help. Um that's super interesting. So they must put you on like a really heavy protease type digestive enzyme. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, specifically, I think it was a couple of things because I had some dairy issues and some other issues too. So it kind of covered, it was a pretty extensive list of digestive enzymes within it. The interesting thing is like I just weaned myself off of it and stopped taking it.
Hmm.
And I'm good because I
That's
have
awesome.
changed so many other things, and I consume, I really work on making sure that my digestive enzymes are high in the morning so
Mhm.
that I can digest everything. And I eat a crap ton of protein now.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you have your own chicken, so clearly we're eating plenty of eggs, which are great for fats and protein. So, yay.
Yes. Eating eggs
Um,
has changed my life as well. The nutrient density in an egg, not talking.
Amazing. I don't have my own chickens, but I buy farm fresh eggs from the lady next door, and they're just amazingly different in quality. It's so good. I love it.
Get some chickens. You have the property for it.
I know, but I have the dog that will absolutely destroy them too. So we'll see.
I is not allowed anywhere near the chicken coop.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I would just wake up to a massacre and I wouldn't even know how we got in there. So we'll play with that another day. Okay, so something like I think a lot of people have heard of Hashi or Hashimoto's, but they don't really know what it is or what the symptoms, and I know it's kind of a wide variety of things.
Yeah.
Give me your take on what your symptoms were of Hashi, what caused that, how you're managing it.
So Hashi is interesting because it can present very differently for a lot of people. Hashi will fluctuate between hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. So at one point, you could be losing weight like crazy and feeling like you're gray in the face and have dark circles under your eyes. And that's the hyper part of it. The hypo part of it, which is kind of where I've been sitting for a little while, is you gain weight, you don't really know why, you haven't changed anything, you're super fatigued, struggle with insomnia, feel like your skin's not very bright, it's really dried out. I lost a lot of hair. I lost like 70% of my hair when I was really struggling with Hashi. I was coming back from COVID as well, but my hair was just falling out. And it really affects your iron absorption, Hashimoto's. So a lot of people don't understand the difference between like iron absorption and iron storage, and those are two really important things. But ferritin is your iron storage, from what I understand. So my ferritin, when I was at the peak of this Hashimoto's, was 7 on my blood panel.
Okay.
You need you need it to be 50 to regrow hair.
Oof.
So not only was I dealing with Hashimoto's and recovering from very severe COVID, I was severely anemic and had no idea that I was because my iron levels were fine. My actual iron levels in my blood were fine, but my iron storage was so low that my body was so depleted all the time without me really knowing it. And this is part of that full blood panel that you really need to understand your numbers. But Hashimoto's is kind of a tricky one to diagnose because it presents really differently in a lot of people. Now, as far as a blood work standpoint, I'm not a blood work chemist, I'm not an expert in that, but the numbers on your blood work can look really differently for Hashimoto's too, but you're going to have antibodies in your blood work. That's your TPO, and that's going to be elevated, and it's going to show that you have antibodies, which basically means your body, for whatever reason, has decided to kind of attack your thyroid in a way. It's not able to figure out what's wrong with your thyroid, so it's sending all of these cells and stuff to try to heal your thyroid, but in turn it's sort of self attacking and it's destroying your thyroid, and that's where your TPO number goes way up. So one of the things that you always want to try to do is figure out why this is happening, and a lot of it stems in the gut. This is what I've learned. People with long-term gut issues, high stress lives, type A personalities tend to fall into this Hashimoto's category, which is considered an autoimmune condition. Depends on who you talk to. Some people say you can totally reverse it. Some
Mhm.
people say you can't. You have it for life. Some people say you can go into remission with it. It just depends on who you talk to. But getting your thyroid under control will change all of your symptoms. And
Absolutely.
I do take a synthetic thyroid. I did not want to. I fought it and fought it and fought it. But it is getting my levels more regular has allowed me to get to a stable place to be able to control the controllable, and change my life. When I didn't have the energy and I was in the thick of it, I couldn't even tackle any of the other things. I couldn't tackle the food. I didn't have the energy to tackle my business. I didn't have the energy to do anything. Getting yourself to a baseline so that you can then address your gut and address your food intake and start to really figure out all your symptoms and how you're going to improve them is key. So I try to encourage people to not be like me and to not be so afraid of needing that medication. Sometimes you need a band-aid to
Yeah.
fix a problem.
Yeah. So is that something you'll have to stay on for life, or do you think eventually be able to wean off that?
That's such a great question.
And you have no idea?
Um, I don't know the answer to that. I have told my functional medicine doctor a million times I don't want to be on this for life. Like my goal is to get off of it. And from what I've heard, it's easiest to get off of it within the first 3 years of being on it. After that, it gets a little bit more tricky. Hashimoto's is not the same as hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. So with those, you tend to need a higher dosage throughout your lifetime, and it's lifelong because your thyroid isn't able to function without it and then depends on it, and then you start to need more and more and more of it as you age. Hashi can go that way too. So it just depends on what your numbers look like. My goal personally is to try to get off of it and try to just need a natural based thyroid supplement rather than a synthetic thyroid hormone.
It makes sense.
It's going to take a while, I
Yeah.
think, and not exactly sure how to get there yet.
Yeah.
I'm in the work, but that's the goal.
Very interesting. I know I have at least a handful of clients that know they have Hashi. And so, I mean, I won't lie, it's such a complex condition that I don't know the best way to always help them because there is so many different ways that you need to handle it. So I think your insight will be really helpful for them to hear as well and to know that there is somewhat of an end to a tunnel or some solutions out there. So I think that's just super helpful. Um, I know one of the big things that you've tackled, you said within the last, I think, couple of years, was the homesteading type stuff, growing your own food, chickens, all of that. Like, okay, so tell me more about that because I need to do more of this. But like, what was the first step with that? And like, what are all the things that you do that are homestead?
So, I wouldn't recommend that everyone does it how we do it, but we literally went to like Fleet and just bought chickens one day. We had nothing. We had well, like we had nothing. We just had chicks in this box that we were trying to raise, and we were like, we'll figure it out. Um, we like just as a family changed into this like very holistic minded thing, kind of like within a year, like very
Okay.
overnight. Um, so we just all of a sudden were like, let's get some chicks. It'll be fun for the kids. We'll figure it out as we go. And we did. We definitely did. We raised these chicks in a Tupperware when we first got them. We started with 5. We had said we're only going to get 5 chickens. That's all we're going to do. Well, within like 6 months, we had 7, and we built. My husband built an outdoor coop, and that first I don't know what you call it, like flock of chickens, 2 of them ended up being roosters. And I live in a suburb. So like there are neighbors all around me.
Yeah.
So I can't have roosters. They're way too noisy. So we've experienced a lot. We've rehomed those roosters. We are now up to 17 chickens. Um,
Do you
we
supply
have
eggs
2.
for the neighborhood?
We do. We actually sell them now,
Perfect.
which I never do, but it helps pay for their feed. Ours are not 100% free range. So they are, we have 2 coops in the backyard, and they have a large fenced area that they're allowed to roam. But they can't be free range because I live in a neighborhood and it's would be frowned upon around
Yes.
here.
Could you imagine?
um, you have one. She is my favorite chicken, so I'm going to give her a shout out. Her name is One Eye. She was really, really sick. First got her. She had one eye that was closed for like a year, and so we named her One Eye. And I nursed her back to life with colloidal silver and some natural remedies, and like would spray it under her tongue every day, multiple times a day. And I nursed her back to life. And she will not stay in the coop to save her soul. She flies out every day, lays her eggs randomly in the yard. So they all have their own personality, which is super, super fun. We get between 7 and 13 eggs a day, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's been a journey. Like we just have figured it out as we've gone. And it's been really, really great for our kids. My son is super into animals. My kids have responsibilities. They are responsible to close them at night, to feed them in the morning, to let them out in the morning. It's taught them about responsibility and it's taught them about the circle of life because chickens die randomly for
Yes.
like no, they get sick or whatever happens. You wake up one day and one of the chickens is dead, and like they have learned about the circle of life and how things come and go and it's okay, and it has been so rewarding. So we do the chickens. I also grow a lot of our own food in the summertime. I'm in Illinois, so I can't really do it in the winter. I don't have a greenhouse. I would love one though. I grow a lot of our fruits and vegetables. I grow a lot of tomatoes and I can all of our tomato sauce for the winter, which is quite the undertaking. But I'm Italian, so I like to make my own tomato sauce from scratch. So I literally blend my tomatoes and freeze them in ball jars, and we make it through the winter on my tomato sauce. We do as much as we can in the suburb where we live to do what I call suburban homesteading.
I like it, and it's
I don't
relatable.
really know.
Here I have
Yeah,
all the
I
space
don't
in the
really know.
world and I can't do it.
It's quite the undertaking, but it's a team effort, and truly our family does it together now. And it's just like next month I start my seeds indoors, and I start all my seeds and I get all my seeds going and then I plant them. And I've got carrots from the winter that are starting to sprout now that I seeded before winter hit. And it's just becomes like, it's not something that I like studied and researched. I just started doing it and made mistakes and screwed it up and then learned how to do it. And it's been it's been a lot of fun, and I love knowing where our food comes from.
Absolutely. That's like my favorite part. Like most of the meat that we have, we get from like my parents who have the cattle and that kind of thing, right? So it's really great to know where your food comes from. I try to buy a lot of fresh produce from the local farmers that have the small produce markets. I mean, we have corn and soybeans, but it's not what we eat. So,
Right.
and I tried to do a garden, and I swear my husband will laugh at you every single time we talk about my gardens because they'll be great for like half the summer and then all of a sudden they're a jungle and I'm like it died. um okay,
Gardening
so
is hard. It takes a
so hard.
skill.
It's so hard. um
Yeah.
okay, so I have to ask, and this is totally random, do you do sourdough? Because I swear this is the thing right now.
So I've heard that sourdough is like the gateway to like being a holistic person, but I don't do sourdough.
Done
I
it,
don't do
okay.
it. It is so overwhelming. It's like having another child. I tried to make my own starter from scratch and I killed it. And I was like, I cannot like stir this thing every day and make sure it's in the right temperature and do all this. Plus, sourdough has gluten in it and I don't eat
Oh,
gluten.
true.
So I would be making it. I mean, it's the gluten content is a lot lower, but I don't touch gluten, so I would be making it solely for my family, which it's a lot of work, man. I don't do
You're
the
like, no.
sourdough thing. I'm like,
Well, I
oh,
wasn't sure because you said that you had had like breads and stuff when you were in Europe, and I almost wonder if that would be more of like the consistency of the more quality gluten or not. I don't know. I'm talking out of my butt right now, but
probably. I mean, my I have two friends that do the sourdough thing, and she spends like all day making these things and putting them in the Dutch oven and getting like, I'm like, I do not have patience or time for that.
no.
So sourdough is not on my list, but I do like, as far as our food is concerned, we order our meat from, I should give them a shout out, Carter Country Meats. I think they're in Wyoming. They are beyond wonderful to their animals, and that is so important to me in the way that they raise them. So I mean, we get a monthly shipment of all of our beef. I'm very, it's hard around here to find really good quality chicken and turkey, but I'm big on the organic and the sourcing. It does make a difference. I really have noticed the difference in my life, in my husband's life, in my kids' life.
Hmm.
So people can say their piece about organic food. I believe that it is more nutrient. I believe that it doesn't have all the nasty pesticides. So I try to avoid all that stuff as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument either way. I'd say the more natural, the better, for sure. I would agree with you that way. Full on organic, up for discussion, right? Everybody has their 2 cents to put in, but definitely with you on that. I love it. Okay, so we've covered a wide array of topics and I love it. I think it's going to be so helpful for people. Um, as far as like all the things that you've been through, all the things that you're trying to do, and I know that you really just want to help, I mean, mostly women learn how to live like a healthy, balanced, happy life where you actually feel good. Um, if there's somebody listening that relates to so many pieces of your story, what would you tell them if they're in the thick of it right now?
Um, that it will change. Seasons come and seasons go, and you're in one particular season right now, and you have to walk into the storm in order to get past it. Walking away from the storm just makes it take longer. So if you can find the will and the power and the grit to walk into the storm and figure out and tackle it from the front end, you will get to the other side of it and the season will change. That is the one thing that I tell myself whenever things are really hard. I'm always like, it's a season. Seasons change, and this one's going to change too, and then you'll be on to the next season. And if I could give anyone one piece of advice when you're in the thick of it and you're really struggling and you're in that depressive state, go outside. Like,
Yes.
just go outside. Go outside, go for a walk, look at the sun, take a deep breath, put your feet on the earth. And I promise you, if you can stand there and take 3 deep breaths, you'll be able to weather that storm.
Oh, I love it. It just reminds me of that bison and buffalo. They're always the ones that go into the storm because
Yes,
it's going to end quicker, right? So you're the buffalo.
yes. You have to go. I have run from storms so many times in my life.
Mhm.
And once I started learning to run into them, I've learned so many valuable life lessons and been able to come out the other side.
Absolutely beautiful. All right, lady. Well, if people want to get a hold of you, if they want help with like, the physical therapy side of things or anything like that, what's the best way for them to reach you or find you?
So I am Toned Tired Mama on Instagram, and that is where I do a lot of my direct messaging. You can always reach out to me there. I am an actual human. I do not use bots or artificial intelligence or anything to answer my DMs. So if you DM me, I will DM you back. You can also email me at tonetiredmama@gmail.com or, contact you, and then you can always get in touch with me. That works too.
Absolutely. Okay. And I'll put your Instagram handle and all of that in the show notes too, so people can get a hold of you directly if they need you or want to just chat with you about any of the things. So I appreciate your time so much, lady.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a blast. I feel like we share so many amazing things, and we're both in this space trying to do the same thing.
Yes.
Just help more people learn how to feel their best.
It's going to be amazing, lady. I'm sure you've definitely made some impact today. So I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have an awesome rest of your day.
All right. Bye.